Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We'd especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Ashton Ruby, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Stud Still Smash the Milkman, Katie Quick, Paul Ramallo, Raging Demon, JC, Megan Caruso, Mast Keaton, Andrew LaGuarri, Ozzy Garcia, The Retro Vixen, Adam from The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog, Thunderdome Gaming Society, Disky Mara, Jenny E, Rick Firestone, Keith Gasper, Dave Jackson, Eric Guess, Kayla Jackson, and Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
And classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we jolly journeymen juggling juggles joining jubilantly. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host Chris Copeland with special guest Ryan Trainor from the Bonzai Chat podcast, and as always, your host Shane. We stand for Drick Dragon Koski.
There we go. That's my stand move. I've got Gorp as my persona, my summon, if you will. If I were a JoJo fighting character, that's what would be there. And I want somebody to make that. Please make that.
Yeah. It wraps around your body like Vega's snake does.
Hell yeah.
Tattoo. Yeah.
I mean,
now
seriously,
we're talking.
That's a awesome, like the Dick Dragon would be a JoJo stand. Like Araki would probably be like, yes, I agree. But what music reference does it come from?
I approve.
What is that band? The Fire and the Flames. Who does that?
Dragon Force.
There you go. That's
Jinx.
Forced Dick Dragon.
Oh hell yeah. There we go. No, and we're onto something here. Okay. If I ever become a fighting game character, that is what I want. Specifically JoJo, because I guess the stand thing doesn't make sense otherwise. But there you go.
Exactly.
Dragon Force, Through the Fire and the Flames. I'm all about this. Somebody make that happen.
We can do this. Capcom, I know you're listening.
Yeah, that definitely.
I mean, Araki's probably listening to this podcast, I'm sure.
You got to tag him. I don't know how to tag him.
You can't. He's a vampire. I mean, does he listen to podcasts? I'll figure it out.
I mean, you said he is.
I don't know why being a vampire makes you not listen to podcasts. You probably would listen to a lot of podcasts because what else
are you doing?
Yeah.
Especially during the day.
Yeah. No, it's actually that is a defined, accepted piece of vampire lore. They do not see their own reflections. They cannot cross running water, and they also are unable to listen to podcasts. So there you go.
That's why they're so angry. All those teeth and no toothbrush.
Wow. I was not expecting a Waterboy reference today, but here we are.
The Abaduma Alagamba.
But first of all, hey, welcome back to the show, Ryan. I think this is the first time in a long time we have not talked about a Fist of the North Star game. I would argue, though, that this game is somewhat inspired. We can probably get to that later, but is it inspired? I have no idea.
I mean,
it feels like it
there
is.
sure are a lot of fists.
There are, and they go aura, aura, aura.
No, you're correct. There's 100% of fisting in this.
Oh.
And
I
yes,
knew I liked it.
Fist of North Star was a big reference with this media we're going to be talking about today.
Nice. And because Ryan is here, this is Anime Month. And I'm happy to continue this tradition that every year we bring on Ryan Trainor to talk about an anime game.
And I love this. I want to continue to make sure this goes on as long as possible. Ryan, thank you for coming back for another year, and we love having you here.
Just because I'm so nervous, I can't think of how you say thank you in Japanese. But thank you.
Well, I also appreciate it because anime month just means that I get to take a vacation.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
There you go.
But before we get into our topic du jour, as you have probably assumed, and, well, knew when you clicked on this episode, we are going to be talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We like to talk about the games we have been playing lately. And we like to kick off with our guests, and they get to open this up about what games we've been playing lately. Ryan, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been playing a whole lot of games. And one game I've been playing that, I was like, because I was juggling a couple games, but I just have to talk about Death Stranding.
Oh.
And just because such a big Metal Gear fan, this game, I haven't beaten it yet. I'm like halfway through it, but it's something. It's a weird game of when you played like Metal Gear Solid Ground Zero and 5 or whatever you want to call that one. It's so much of that same game, but you're not doing the cool shit.
Wow, really? Okay, you're really selling this. Continue.
You got to explain this one.
But it still has that whole, I don't think Kojima just really gets the whole open world concept that well, because I like Death Stranding. It's a cool game. There's a lot to do, and you're just in this whole world and you're walking here, walking there, and doing this. But there's just like no substance to it, which was a Metal Gear Solid game. I don't know. It just makes me want to play Metal Gear Solid so much more.
Maybe that was the point.
Yeah, I'll say that was actually he's just playing 4D chess here. He just really wants to get you to play Metal Gear. That's what it is.
He's doing a good job because I mean, I don't think like even with like Norman Reedus and like even having like all the actual actors, like they do a really good job and everything looks amazing. And it is a lot of fun, like going around the world and you're like making these ways to get through shit. But it's like you go across America in like 3 days. It's like, oh, okay. Metal Gear Solid, anything makes more sense than this. But whatever. There's just like no story. I feel like I'm halfway through the game according to like what I looked up and stuff. And I'm just like, what am I doing? But again, like still just like playing around the world and doing the pickups and just because again, you're basically a delivery guy. It is fun. It's fun like exploring. It's like it's very like Minecraft-y, I guess, because you can do so much useless stuff and it doesn't matter. But if you want to put the time in, it actually makes the game more fun. But if you don't want to, you don't have to do that. So there is no point of like having like even like a easy mode to a hard mode. It's like up to you if you want to do it that way. Even with like the enemies, like they're just all dumb. You can just run up and just beat the crap out of like 50 people. Where it's like in Metal Gear Solid 5, which is like it's the same gameplay. Like if you tried to do that, you would die unless you sneak or had the had the weaponry for it. So it's like I don't know what he's trying to do with this. I just miss Solid Snake a lot.
I like that. That's the summary of it. Okay.
Because
yeah.
I mean, it is a fun. It's fun what they're doing, and the game looks really great and all that. I don't know. It's like Death Stranding has this like weird, very almost like Silent Hill type of just like crazy, dark, scary shit to it. Even more scary than anything Metal Gear Solid ever had, because that never ever felt scary to me. But like Death Stranding like has that theme to it, but they just don't tap into it because they're like, yeah, let's make all this scary shit and make all this dumb shit that you have to do to not get you scared. So, it's so weird, but I don't know. I do like Kojima so much of him trying to do something different, but man, like, stop torturing me. or your fan base, I guess. But I don't know, there's a second one coming out, so I'm gonna probably fucking buy that, of course, and see where it goes. But the thing I think that really bugs me is that I just wish, honestly, I would actually probably love this game so much more if he just didn't have actors in it. And I don't hate any of the people that were the actors in it, but I feel like if he would have created these characters just like a Solid Snake, it's like if the main character, instead of being Norman Reedus, was just something else, I feel like I would actually back this game up 100%.
Yeah, I think it does take away from that, sort of ability to put yourself in the role of the character if it's a very recognizable like person. So I totally get that.
And all the people in the game are, it's like, even they do have like masks and like different, like they all look different. Like you can't you obviously can tell they're who they are as their actors, but they're all actors. And it's like, that's cool. But that's, again, I know he wants to make a movie. He's like a movie maker and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, just make up new people. Just stop with the mocap. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's my thoughts. I won't take any more of you guys' time. I'll have a smoke break.
No. All good, dude. All good. I've been wanting to hear about Death Stranding. I've heard mixed stuff, so getting your take on it is cool. I like hearing that opinion on it. As also someone who liked the Metal Gear Solid series, so if I want to play Metal Gear Solid, is what you're saying is I need to go play some Death Stranding.
I feel like you gotta I mean, if you're a Metal Gear fan, it's definitely a game you should explore.
Interesting. That's awesome. I need to try that out. I might try out Death Stranding.
You have to try it. I'd say it.
I mean, I got it for the price of free, so I don't really have an excuse not to try it. So.
Yeah. But Shane, speaking about trying things out, what have you been up to in these past 2 weeks? What have you been playing?
Well, my birthday was recently, and so I
Happy birthday!
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I am in fact even older. But for my birthday, my wife asked me like what I wanted, and I'm like, you know what? Honestly, what I want is just a day to just not do anything, just like not think about responsibilities, not anything, and I want to sit down, and I just want to like no life Elden Ring like all day, because I still have not finished that game yet. And so that is what I did, and I had a couple buddies come over, and we used the seamless co-op mod for Elden Ring, and it is great. And we all basically played together the whole day, and it was a good time. And that's the reason I am telling this story, is because that got me real deep back into Elden Ring. So that is what I have been doing pretty much exclusively for the past couple of weeks. I have about 142 hours on record for that game, and I still have not actually finished the playthrough. That game is massive. I am enjoying my time with that again. I completely reworked my character build again. I'm going with great swords, specifically the blasphemous blade, because that thing is busted and amazing. So I'm rolling with that thing. I've got my well, we used to call it Fashion Souls, but now with Elden Ring, apparently it's called Elden Bling. So I got that Elden Bling drip going. I got a sweet armor set. I look badass. I got the Eclipse Great Shield. I'm doing pretty good, but yeah, that is pretty much all I've done for a little while now. So what about you, Chris? What have you got going on?
So when we got done with our Lunar Silver Star episode, I said I was going to play Lunar Silver Star Story, and I was playing a little bit of Lunar Silver Star Story leading up to that episode. And I was like, I got to finish this. And I got distracted by Disco Elysium. That game didn't jive with me too well. Or a lot of people in our Discord, some people still love it, but that's fine. It can be.
I just by seeing the comments coming through our review crew channel, it seems like that game was aggressively divisive.
Very divisive.
Sorry, Randall.
So I decided to pick back up Lunar Silver Star Story for the Saturn. I played that. I played in English translation. There was the Working Designs translation, and they had a new English dub, which was interesting. I don't know if I like it more or less than the Working Designs ones. Besides the point, I beat that. I got done with that. And it kind of reconfirmed my position that I do like the original a little bit more. Just a little snappier. The plot makes more sense than the original. They just make some weird choices that I don't understand. I understand they wanted to make the game longer and pad it out because that was the thing in like the mid to late 90s is if your game is longer, it must be better. And it's like,
Elden Ring.
Hey, listen, the difference there is that Elden Ring has enough content to justify that amount of length. Like, I don't think Lunar is perfect the way it was. It did not need to be longer.
True.
No. And like, I think that's really exemplified in Silver Star Story, but I don't think you notice it unless you play the original because the original just kind of flows a little bit better. And I have my problems with the way it flowed. I think I said that in the episode, but it's just the additional padding feels like additional padding.
Yeah.
Like it's aggressively like, here's some extra shit. Aren't you happy it's here? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I'm not going to complain because it's not that bad. I mean, it was like 35 hours overall, 35 hours. How long to beat says it's like 20 something hours. I don't know how they got that number. It's wrong. But I did beat it and I did make a rapid fire review of that. So expect to see that when it comes across your Patreon feeds, patrons. And if you do want to do that, just head to our link tree, linktr.ee/retrohangover, and you might be able to hear that as well. But that's what I have been playing, Shane. So back over to you so we can segue this appropriately.
All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
All right, bye.
What? Wait, what?
All right, shit. How do we talk about JoJo now?
That's the Dio thing I would do.
Yeah.
But it was me, Dio.
Let me use the world. You guys don't get that.
Nope, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that do.
I actually don't.
And this is why these episodes are always just a treat because it's just a mishmash of like confusion and just unadulterated love for this source material from at least one of the three of us. And you know what? I think it's a mixture for success. And so on that point, I suppose we probably ought to talk about the game du jour, which is in fact JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which, as it turns out, is maybe not as bizarre as one might think for the Dreamcast, the Sega Dreamcast, because I know fuck all about this. I am going to let Chris read this here brief history. So, Chris, would you like to let the fine people at home know a little bit about JoJo?
Expecting Shane to read the brief history, weren't you? But it was me, Dio. I'm not Dio. But in any case, I have no idea if that makes any sense. So if you're a fan of the anime JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, please don't raise your pitchforks. Yet, at least, as we have this portion of the podcast to get through. Besides, you fans shared something in common with some people in Capcom in 1998. It appears that Capcom wanted to make a fighting game out of the hit manga and anime in Japan. And because Capcom loved to make fighting games in the mid to late 90s, that's exactly what they did. Capcom would go to their CP System 3, which is mostly known for the Street Fighter 3 series. Keeping in line with being thematic, Capcom would use the setting and characters from JoJo's third arc, which had debuted about 5 years prior in Japan. Capcom would also get series creator Hirohiko Araki to create exclusive pieces of art for promotion and packaging, as well as flesh out a character that was not fully revealed in the manga itself. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure would find release in the arcade in December of 1998 in Japan, with the revision arriving less than a year later in September of 1999 as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage for the Future. There was a North American arcade release as well, which was simply titled JoJo's Venture. Console ports would also arrive on the PlayStation and the Dreamcast. The PlayStation would see its release on October 14th, 1999 in Japan, with a March 31st, 2000 release in North America, whereas the Dreamcast would see an October 31st, 1999 release in North America, which was actually followed by a Japanese release a month later. Europe would also see a release of both of these games sometime in the year 2000. Reception for this anime and manga licensed game was, of course, high in its native country of Japan. The arcade game was the third highest grossing arcade game in Japan in 1999, trailing only Virtua Striker 2 and Street Fighter Alpha 2. The home console versions also performed decently, with 300,000 total copies sold. While Western critics gave it generally positive reviews, commercially it seemed to be little more than a blip on anyone's radar, perhaps leading to the relatively high price it commands on the secondhand market at the time of this recording. This was hardly surprising, as the series was obscure outside of Japan in the late 90s, even as anime was becoming more mainstream in North America. Most reviewers would point out how the game was unorthodox and enjoyable, but would mostly be found to be the game of people who would enjoy fighting games and the anime series fanatics. Today, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has a larger footprint in the West and has received several more games in the franchise, all of which are fighters, including remasters of this game that we are talking about today for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And that is your brief history of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for that brief history. I mean, how do we segue into the personal experiences? You're usually the segue master.
I'm not even a master. There it is. He made it.
Okay.
He did it.
There, that's all we needed. The thing is like we have license to do whatever because it's bizarre, right? So we could be crazy. It doesn't matter.
Quite strange.
Can we do this whole podcast without saying the B word?
No,
that ship sailed.
I kind of fucked that up, but it's like one of those things where you hear anybody talk about JoJo and they're like, it's a bizarre game. It's a bizarre anime. And yeah, I'm not that smart.
Well, I mean, I suppose though we could probably, I don't know, Chris, what do you think? You think we should start with our illustrious guest here?
Yeah. Let's have Ryan kick this one off.
All right, so Ryan, what is your personal experiences with JoJo and perhaps this game in particular?
Well, being a little anime fanboy, I think this game it's interesting because I remember playing it at a friend's house. It goes in the line of the Fist of the North Star stuff, where I knew about Fist of the North Star, and when I saw a game, I was like, oh yeah, of course there'd be a fighting game of this. A friend of mine that had the Dreamcast version of this, I was like, what the hell is this game? Like, is this an anime? Is this just like its own thing? Like, it just said JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on it. Yeah, it was just like a cool fighter. You could just like jump in, get in, and just like play. And I'm like, who are these characters? They just like seems so interesting and like very distinctive, and playing like Street Fighter and Tekken and all these other like fighting games. I'm like, this is just a very well put fighting game that I don't see anywhere. Later, as I was like, oh yeah, there's this awesome anime called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure I got into, and I forgot about this game. yeah, that I just realized there was a whole game that was kind of like wormholed into my head that I just knew about. It was just funny because by the time I got into like the anime, going back to trying to find this game was so hard. I mean, I actually had to like emulate it and stuff like that, but it's a very rare game, but everybody always that I see like online and stuff like thinks it's like so cool. And it does have a lot of like character to it. And for the one part of JoJo that it's talking about, I don't know, it couldn't have done a better job at that. That's my personal experience.
Nice. All right. Well, you know what? I'll go next because I'm gonna get it out of the way. Can anybody guess what mine is?
What's a JoJo?
It's what even is a JoJo? Yes. It's nothing. I've got nothing. I wasn't kidding when I said that I love anime month because it's vacation time for Shane because I can just sit here and much like you at home, I can just listen. It's like I'm listening to a podcast, but I'm a part of it. It's great because I don't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it and I still don't, but I know some stuff from this game. Did you know a man puts his fingers directly into people's faces, like inside their faces? That's crazy. And one might say bizarre.
God damn it.
I'll use the B word.
We did it. We did it, everybody. Okay, roll credits. We're out of here. Chris, what about you? What do you got?
So I remember when this game came out back in 2000. And I didn't get it. And I think one of the biggest reasons was because at the time, the Dreamcast just had a glut of fighting games. I remember being fairly disappointed with Street Fighter 3. I was not a fan of it. But
Third Strike?
I think Double Impact was the one I just gave me a bad taste. But I remember really liking, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, and King of Fighters Dream Match 99. So by that point, I had my fill of fighting games, and I was really trying to resist the, impending PlayStation 2 takeover. I don't know, like I didn't need another fighting game in my life, and I didn't know what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was, but I don't remember like really wanting to pick it up because the reviews weren't good enough to like for me to run out and buy it like a Soul Calibur would have been, and they didn't have the reputation of the other fighting games. So, I mean, flash forward to many years later, and I finally even learned what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was because it was kind of memed into existence, I guess, with a lot of people doing the It's Friday meme. Our mutual friend, Steve, that we have, Shane, who would do it on Facebook for a very long time.
Yes.
Yes, it's Friday. And so I see that you had it was me, D.O. meme that I referenced in our brief history. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But I still had never played it. And so this is my first time playing this game. It was for this podcast. And I'm really interested to put out what I think about this because it's not really your typical fighting game, which is what I was led to expect way, way, way back in the day, which can cause, I don't know, some apprehension when getting into this, because if you don't know exactly what it is, I don't think you're really going to understand what kind of game you're getting into. So that's kind of my personal history here.
This game is so much more of what kind of like anime fighters are expected to be. With this podcast, I was thinking about if Dragon Ball Fighter Z came out just like this, and people didn't know about any of the history of like Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball GT, which I guess there was a point in time that was a thing, but Arc System Works made that game and there was just this game of Dragon Ball Fighter Z. I feel like this game kind of was that because they made more JoJo fighters later, but everyone always goes back to this one, which is just one arc, because the other fighting games, they're just like, yeah, let's it's all JoJo. Every JoJo characters in it, like, let's just have fucking brawls with that. This one is just for the third season. They just went crazy with it. Like, no fighting game was like that. It's like they have the whole like story mode of it where they show you the entire thing of this manga in a fighting game, and you actually get to fight with it too. With the story mode in that, did you guys get to play that or research that? Yeah. So it's like the story mode was a lot of the quick time events. It really does go through the entire manga, and you play the fighting game along with the playing other types of game. I just feel like this is what kind of fighting games are lacking now, where it's so much more of like the online fighter now, which, you know, that's cool, but it's like you got to look at what other players that don't play online fighting, they should have like a story they can go through. They should have other options of kind of just messing around with the game and finding characters and doing other things.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the big things. And actually, you know what, Ryan, you inadvertently made a fantastic segue. Would you like a job, by the way? Because I feel like we need somebody to do that. No offense, Chris. Well, actually, maybe a little bit, but that's fine.
Well, I am terrible to say that.
But no, that actually rolls really well into the plot writing aspect of things, because that is one of the things, as someone who knows just fuck all about JoJo and is on record as being awful at fighting games, I really actually appreciated the story mode approach. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It's one of the reasons that I'm able to even enjoy some fighting games. Like, I really appreciated when, like, Mortal Kombat, for example, started including more sort of robust like story modes, because at least I could get into that as someone who's not really a competitive fighter kind of player. So I did appreciate that here as well. And it is kind of a bummer, right? Like, I think you make a good point. And this is the same thing. I've said this before about shooters as well, like FPS games, where they realize that all the money is in the multiplayer. And so why should we waste funds on having developers create these big single player campaign experiences when ultimately everybody's just going to gravitate to the multiplayer, which we can just slap together some arenas and call it a day. So it's kind of the same issue in a way, I think. And for those of us that appreciate, you know, more of like a story driven kind of experience, it is kind of a letdown. So it was nice to have this here. Yeah,
I would totally agree with what you said here, Shane, in terms of the kind of the presentation and story, because you don't see this in arcade fighters for the most part. Sometimes you do see the story, but it's just kind of like half baked. So if you're a fan of the anime and a fan of the manga, then
how dare you?
I know. I got
fucking asshole.
I know.
I'm clicking
manga.
Exit now.
I'm being destroyed I'm losing my weeb card here, but
Go play Lunar.
I mean, I think I get it back. But when you look at the way that the story is told, even if you don't know what's going on in the manga, like I didn't.
I sure didn't.
I didn't. And it was fun. It was like, it was very over the top. And now that I've seen like the first season, because I've only watched the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which I've also been told is the worst season for some reason. I thought it was fine.
Oh, I mean, it sucks, but it's great.
But I could tell the series is over the top. So it fit with everything that I was kind of expecting in terms of the storytelling. And I don't know. I don't even know how I can complain. I think it's what people that appreciated the manga were looking for. So yeah, there you go.
So I'm actually curious about something. Maybe you'll be able to answer this, Ryan. I don't know. I find it interesting that this game seemed to like hyper focus on a very specific thing for like the third arc. And so like, do you know, was this part of like a promotional thing specifically for the new season? Was it like around the same time? Or I guess I'm just trying to figure out like why they chose to focus on that piece in particular.
Well, I'm just spitballing here and acting like I know everything in the entire world.
I'm just going to believe whatever you say, so it's fine.
But honestly, it's the first two seasons, just even in the manga, It's like Araki was just getting his legs going with being a manga artist, like a mangaka. Can I just like say that like that?
Yes.
It just took a long time for him to kind of get legs with his idea of what he wanted to do with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In the third arc, Stardust Crusaders just really set the standard of him introducing stance, which wasn't in the other two arcs. His character development and all his just storyline for what JoJo could be with the bloodline and everything. I mean, he really had a brand there. I think that's where it like hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like with Jotaro, like such a badass character just that didn't give a fuck and had the yada yada. He had a whole cast of characters, and in the other two, it was just one JoJo. There was other characters. Dio was in the other ones too, but it was basically just like the main JoJo, but there was no cast until the third arc came around, and there was a cast of characters, and you have Polnareff, Avadal, which is funny. It's like you see older JoJo, who was the guy in the other ones. He's like the best character, at least in my opinion. It's like, you're like, why is he old JoJo? Why is he old Joseph? And then you get in some of the other versions of the game. It's like you get young Joseph, which is the older Joseph in the game. And he has like his signature moves and he doesn't have a stand. He's actually out of the arc. It's just like kind of cool to see, because people, that like jumped into this game, or maybe this time of JoJo, were like, they're reading it backwards. That's how I read it. I don't know, that's why I chose this game, because this game is, I feel like, with a lot of like fighting game communities and stuff, it is a very big plot point. It stands out, no pun intended, but it's just one of those rare fighting games, because even the more recent JoJo games, because it doesn't matter now if JoJo gets 1,000 fighting games, it doesn't matter. It's on Netflix. Everyone's watching it. It's going to get its due. But this game was just like, no one understood it, but they all went out and bought it and played it. And they were like, what the fuck is going on with this game? And it wasn't anything like a Street Fighter or any other fighting game. It was a 2D fighter. It had all these characters, and these characters are telling the story while you're fighting. Like, even the one character that turns you into like a kid, there's a whole mini game for that in one of the versions. It's just wild how much in-depth just gameplay they put into this game. And yeah, it doesn't look the best. It looks really cool in the sense of like, if you like JoJo, but I guess looking back on it, like, I guess it could be better, but I still think like it's just so fun to watch any of the specials, any cool gameplay fighting of it. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. It seems like this was just the perfect opportunity for this to kind of hit, because that was when the show seemed to like really, or manga / show kind of really picked up. Like, that's when it really hit its stride.
There was an OVA that came out earlier. It like came out in 1993, 94, and it literally told this story of the fighting game. But it was, I forgot what anime studio did it, but it's an interesting like thing to see, because you can watch it all on YouTube. But I think playing the fighting game is a lot more fun. Playing this fighting game and then going to what they have now in 2000 whatever for the new JoJo stuff, and watching it from the beginning, you kind of realize like so much more of this game. It's so weird that they did that way. Like, why didn't they start with Phantom Blood, which is the original? They just started with Stardust Crusader because the manga was so popular.
Yeah.
It would have been less work if they just did Phantom Blood. There would have been like 4 characters. I don't know.
That may have been a reason.
I'd say that's probably the reason. Yeah.
The arcade had like a couple characters in the arcade version. They had so many versions of this game. It's just so wild that they like didn't hone in and make this kind of like a complete series. Because then later when they made like the All-Star ones, which is like for a PS3 and beyond, and they made the other one Heaven Star or something like that, they just added everybody in it. And it's just like a whole world of JoJo. And I think that's why this game is so appreciated more, because it's a standard 2D fighter, and the other ones just kind of like, they don't make sense. All-Star Battle is pretty good, but it's kind of like whoever clicks the right button first wins. It's not about like button mashing. Well, actually it's a lot of button mashing, but
well, maybe I'd like it then.
Then they got rid of that with the next one, where it's an open world fighter. I hate that game. It's so stupid. It has every character I love, and I wish I could play it 24/7, but it sucks as a fighting game, I think.
Interesting. So, Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to kind of add as far as the plot and writing presentation that we see here?
No, man. No, because like I said, I only watched the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I'm just kind of living vicariously through my kid when it comes to this third season. Again, I just think it was really well executed for your standard fighter in terms of how they told it, and unique. And I think that's something that the fighting genre kind of needed. Well, in a sense, it's something I think that would be really beneficial to the fighting genre if more fighting games had it. That's all really I have to say.
Yeah. No, I think I'm with you on that one. I mean, there are times where I think I'd go so far in the other direction just to say that, like, going back to like my Mortal Kombat example, I remember playing, which one was it? I want to say it was 9. I don't know. One of those where they had like the whole like behind the shoulder third person like story mode where you like wander around like areas and get into fights with people. Like I kind of wish that they would have leaned more into that. And then I realized that what I'm really looking for is just make it an RPG. Stop being a fighting game and just make it an RPG. Yeah. That's my answer for everything. That's like, you know what? I actually really, okay. So here's the thing. It's a tangent because it's not related to JoJo, but it is relating to fighting games, and therefore I stand by it. No pun intended. And that is, I finally got around to watching Mortal Kombat Legacy on HBO, and it's pretty good. It made me realize that I actually really like the characters in the lore of Mortal Kombat. I just hate playing the games.
It's the best.
I just hate playing the fucking games.
I am totally with you on that.
What I really want them to do, and if they're definitely listening to this, please like make an actual like action RPG in the Mortal Kombat universe, and I will buy that like day one. I'm just saying, like it could happen. It could happen is all I'm getting at. But anyway, enough of my side tangent, because that is not JoJo. However, there is, I think, quite a bit for us to talk about here as we are. Ooh, wait, he didn't do it yet. As we are want to do. There you go. I got it this time.
Hey,
yeah,
you got it in.
That's right. I'm taking it back. I think we should talk about the gameplay.
You can always use the world.
Yeah. I think we should talk about the gameplay because unlike some of this other stuff, I actually do have some input here.
Oh,
and with most things, I think this is probably the bigger chunk of the discussion anyway, especially considering a fighting game tends to live or die by how they play. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and have Chris start this time around. Oh. So, what did you feel about how this game plays?
At first, the first time I fired this up, first of all, my Dreamcast was hooked up via VGA connector, and I figured out.
Quick question, sorry. Does anything come up in the Dreamcast, like little memory card thing for JoJo?
Honestly, I don't remember. I didn't look at it. I probably should have.
Oh, in the VMU, you mean?
Yeah. I didn't look. I don't remember.
All right, I'm done. I'm leaving.
Oh,
like I know you can save your high scores with the VMU, but I don't remember if it's anything that popped up.
I don't know if anything came up on the screen. I didn't look at the screen.
I just thought it'd be so cute if there was just like each character, like a little Dio or a little JoJo, just like fighting, like Soul Calibur, like they did that shit. And I'm like, God, this isn't doing anything, but I fucking love it.
It's probably been because I've just been out of the rotation so much from playing on my Dreamcast. I hadn't thought to look at the VMU. I just haven't looked at the VMU in a very, very long time. So now that you mentioned that, I might need to go back and see if anything does pop up. If something is in there that's fun, that could be interesting.
Slip in my DMs and let me know.
I definitely will. Ooh. I will let you know if JoJo is there.
Yeah. Tell me all about that hot VMU action.
Oh, I stand for that VMU. When it comes to like the gameplay itself, when I fire this up again, like the VGA wouldn't work through the Dreamcast for whatever reason. And apparently it's not compatible. Okay, whatever. I have other means. So I started playing this game and I did not know how unorthodox it was from a traditional Capcom fighter. I had no idea. For this game, you have 3 attack buttons. It's almost more similar to an SNK like button layout than a Capcom one, because it has a light, medium, and strong attack plus a stand. And the stand button, what it does is it brings out your stand. Almost every character has a stand, which is kind of like a shadow character that will allow you to do more damage. And what I mean by SNK type of fighter, because they normally only have 4 buttons, like light kick, strong kick, light punch, strong punch. But this is just light, medium attack, which, okay, fine. It's kind of like playing a fighting game on a Sega Genesis. But just the addition of a stand and what it could do and what it couldn't do really turned me off for a little while, because I didn't know how to execute. This is me saying, after years of playing Capcom fighting games, you have your special moves and how to charge them up in the Street Fighter Alpha series or whatever the case might be. And the inputs are very similar, but in terms of the like delay and how the moves are actually in and of themselves executed, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. So my first playthrough, I was just like, I hate this game. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to execute anything. I was having such a bad time. But the second and third time I played the game, I swapped it up with a couple of different characters, and I got more experimental on my fourth time, and I started having a little bit more fun because I started understanding what the game wanted me to do. So I will say, like, gameplay wise, you got to go into this game with an open mind, or at least understand what the game wants you to do prior to going into it, because I had no idea going into it blind. And I just felt like overwhelmed, because I was like, I am not good at fighting games, but I am not this bad. And I have it all the way at the 1-star level for difficulty, which is the easiest difficulty. The first dude is wrecking me. And I just was like, ugh. Took me a while to figure things out. That unorthodoxy is going to get to anyone who is just a casual fighting game fan.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I would say that I think my experience with it is fairly similar. I'm going to be honest. Much like other fighting games, I put maybe not a ton of time into it because I was just like, I feel like I should maybe know what I'm doing here, and I sure don't. And I looked up some stuff, tried to keep track of some walkthroughs and things like that, and that did help. But I will say, apart from the struggles with just getting my brain wrapped around how to kind of work this, if we kind of divorce ourselves from that for a moment, I will say that one of the big things that I did appreciate about how this game plays is just how smooth everything is. Like, this game just has like a flow, and I'm not even talking about just the combat and the movement, because those are very smooth as well. And that dovetails a little bit into the graphics, because the animations are fantastic. But even like little things, and again, this is coming from somebody who's not like deep into fighting games, so I don't know how common this is, but from the ones I've played, a big difference that was immediate to me was the fact that there was no break in between rounds, where a lot of games that I'm used to, like, your more traditional, like older Mortal Kombats or Street Fighter or what have you, in between each round in a fight, you would have a very clear stop a lot of the times it would fade to black and everything would reset and you'd have a round 2 and you'd start over. And this game straight up does not do that. It just effortlessly flows from one round to the next as if it's just one big fight. There is no break, no stop. It just keeps going. And I actually really did appreciate that flow that it's got going on. And I think it feels good. Like even if you have no clue what you're doing, which I super do not, I did still at least appreciate like what it had going on there.
What about you, Ren?
It's your standard 2D fighter, but that's what's kind of beautiful about this game is that JoJo Bizarre Adventure, third season of it, got its own 3D fighter in this way, especially in the way of the 3 CPU processor or whatever that is. Do I like video games? I don't know. But,
it's okay. Like no one knows the exact system board for Capcom. Most people don't. It's fine.
I try to act smart, but
like Chris is just a hyper nerd. It's fine.
I looked it up. I stayed at a Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn Express. I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's still one of these games that stands out as a fighting game that was before Anime Fighters, and the gameplay is it is like a 2D fighter. It does have like different things with like the stand and all that stuff that did build on to other games, but I mean, if you think about it, it's just punch kick, trying to do some launch tactics. Every character is like kind of weird, and I like that, where in a fighting game that you don't know what you're walking into, and this game definitely kind of like sold that, where you're just picking the character that you like from the manga, kind of seeing where it goes with it. The gameplay is, it's just, it is bizarre.
It is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Even you did it.
I dropped the B word. I was trying so hard not to, but it's a standard 2D fighter. And I just feel like as these games have gone on, which I've like talked about, the next game, the like All-Star Fighter, was like a 2D, 3D. It was like a Street Fighter 4 kind of standard fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got into like an open world thing. And I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that?
Because it was the new hotness.
I know.
Everybody's got to do the open world thing.
It sucks balls. It's so dumb. And it is like fun, I guess, for more, even for me, like hardcore JoJo fans, because there's just like so much shit you can do in it. But man, I just want Street Fighter 4 graphics with this gameplay going on right now. Like that would be with all the characters. They do that with All-Star. Yeah, they just stopped. They're like, yeah, like let's not do a fighting game and let's just have everyone run around. And I'm like,
an arena fighter.
Yeah, it's so dumb though. Like you hide behind trash cans. Like I'd never want. If you guys ask me to do that, I'd have to decline.
Wow, that is a strong stance. Then okay,
strong stand.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Yes,
I stand proud.
Well, speaking of the stand system, we've kind of already addressed it, but I did just want to point out I thought it was really cool. Like again,
it's awesome.
I don't know. For all I know, maybe other games did shit like this, but I haven't really seen too much like it. And I just thought it was really cool. Like the fact that each fighter has this unique sort of like secondary persona that they can just sort of like summon up mid battle. It makes everything way more dynamic. Also provides a lot of like plentiful opportunities for just like super badass flashy moves, which this game has plenty of. So yeah, I thought it was really cool.
That's like the whole point of like Jotaro. I mean, he's like the badass of the badass. Like him just leaning back and just like showing up Star Platinum to just like do his barrage of punches on somebody. I mean, and he's literally like sleeping. That's what it looks like he's doing. So he's like sending a ghost out to beat the fuck out of somebody. It's so cool. Did I say I like this?
You might have mentioned it. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I will say from like a difficulty standpoint, like,
oh, you said stand.
I did. Dio, the final boss of this game, isn't like annoyingly difficult like you get in a lot of final boss fights in fighting games. Like it's not super cheap. If you have a strategy that you can go into the final boss with, you're going to be okay. I mean, yeah, Dio is still harder than a lot of the other fighters you encounter, but it's not annoyingly cheap, which was like a Capcom hallmark by this point. Especially when you go look at Street Fighter 3. You know, what's the final boss of Street Fighter 3? Don't remember their name, but they suck.
Fuck, what's his name?
They can recharge his health at will. In any case,
well, he dies and comes back.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's extremely annoying. So I'm really happy that didn't happen there. I will say one of my problems with the gameplay is the story. Going back to the unorthodoxy of the story mode is some people appreciate it, some people won't. I did not. Like we had this one level where you had to run across a desert and just avoid all these things.
Oh, the water.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is going on? Because the first time I played through it with Jotaro, and like you can't run, so he's just either walking casually or he's dashing. And sometimes I would dash into a water attack and I wouldn't know what's coming up. And it's just like, I thought I was playing a fighting game. So I don't think I really appreciated any of that. Now, the second time I played through with Iggy. And that was a lot easier on a level like that, just because Iggy moves really fast. It's not a dash, it's more of a run. So there's a difference in the way that the characters play to an enormous degree. To that point, I'll also say like there's enough variety in this game and enough different ways you can play this game that the experience can be extremely varied in how you approach your preferred way to play. Because I don't think any two characters really play the same way. Mm-hmm. Now I understand like Jotaro and his little band of, friends are somewhat similar, but you look at the way that the villains control and who you can select, and they are radically different than what your heroes can do. Some of the characters can control their stands independently of themselves and they be the fighters. And some characters don't even have stands and they can think like Mariah, for example, she can like level up her abilities by just throwing out this like electrical charge thing and then becoming more powerful.
She has a stand.
Well, not in the game. So like,
I know.
Right. But like those are the things that are like really cool about this system is that every single fighter is radically unique from each other, as apart from just having different move lists. So I will give that. So if you're a fighting game fanatic, there's a lot of depth to this game.
For sure. That's a good point. And yeah, it's like anytime you pick up a character, I mean, most of them, it's not like a Ryu Ken kind of situation. Like they're just so wildly different. Like you said, the button commands, but then with the one girl you like talked about, it's like you just
Mariah.
Yeah, Mariah. It's like you play her, and then you're like, why is there a plug just popped up as my stand? Like, what does that mean? And you have to like set it up. It makes you think about like what you picked and what you did with every character in this game, because they're not just all gonna give you a like Ghost Fighter like Star Platinum with Jotaro, or like Avdol, you get like his stand. It's a very unique game. Like they took a lot of time to make them so different with each character.
Yeah, and speaking of the differences between characters, and this kind of bleeds over a little bit into the graphics, but I feel like it fits here too. I really love a lot of the special moves in this game because they're just so fucking like banana pants crazy.
Yeah.
Like
very funny.
Do you want to drop like a literal steamroller on a dude and then punch the shit out of the machine to do extra damage? Because this game has got you if that's what you want to do.
Right. Damn Dio.
Skullgirls. Actually, have you played that game, Skullgirls?
I have seen it.
I have not.
Yeah, because that's like an indie fighting game too, but they reference it with one of the characters. And it's funny because one of the character that does do the steamroller, which is 100% reference from this game, does that, and she can like miss it when in this game, like it's obviously you're gonna get hit by it. It's just like funny if you like watch YouTube clips of it when she misses the steamroller. because it's not Dio, this crazy, it's this like little like kind of like totally different character like
Mm,
trying to do the same thing, but
that's funny.
same reference.
Uh,
JoJo goes everywhere. It's everywhere.
I think Ryan will agree with this like wholeheartedly, so I don't have a question there. But can we all just agree that Iggy is clearly the best character?
Oh, he's the shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Best.
Okay.
I love Iggy.
Best boy.
He eats coffee bubble gum.
What?
As you do.
As you would.
If Iggy gets out of hand, you give him coffee bubble gum. That's literally in the manga.
I think Iggy is my spirit animal.
Bones coffee.
If you don't give him that, he farts in your face.
Oh, yep. Confirmed. Absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, since we're talking about graphics, and I was going to say something about farts, but they don't really like render them so much, but let's just pretend they do.
I thought we were talking about our feelings, but
I mean, we can. Do you want to? We could turn this into like a therapy podcast. You could do that.
I stand by that.
We could reach a whole new audience. Just do a hard pivot into like self-help halfway through a JoJo episode.
Go to BetterHelp.
Sponsored. We're not sponsored by BetterHelp.
No, but we're here.
That's right.
Call us.
But graphics, this game sure has them. So we should probably talk about them. I'm gonna spin this back around to Ryan.
I'm just like that guy in the desert. I'm blind, so.
Oh well, shit. Okay, well then I guess he's got nothing for this. I mean, I don't know, Chris. Do you want to take it then? I don't want to be ableist and say that the blind man here. I don't want to put him on the spot. So,
but you know that guy that's in the desert that I think Shane or Chris hated.
Yeah,
he's blind. That's why he sends water. It
well,
doesn't
he's
make
also
sense.
annoying.
I know, of course, blind people
Wow.
are annoying.
Wow. Wow. We just got canceled, everyone.
I don't think blind people are annoying.
When they
How
send
dare
water
you
at
not see with your eyes?
I'm just.
Jesus.
Hey, Jotaro's told me he was annoying, and he beat the fuck out of that guy. So you know.
Well, Jotaro can't be wrong. So there you go.
Yada yada. That's his like signature.
Oh man.
I wish I had a cigarette right now. But yeah, the graphics are really good.
Yeah, let's talk about those things that people can see. Jesus.
Blind people can't
This
though.
is terrible.
You remember when we talked about people shitting in our Fist of the North Star one? Jamie Lee Curtis, should we bring her back?
God.
Oh God, yeah. I remember because I even made the subtitle of the episode about that.
Yes, you did.
So yeah, let's not do that.
Okay, good. Yeah, let's leave that one alone. We've done enough damage as it is. But yeah, this this graphics, man, they sure do be looking good. I mean, they are. They're actually really. What? You don't like them? I thought they were great.
No.
Why not?
I don't like them.
What? Why not?
I don't think they're good. That's why. I need to go back and I need to take a look at Street Fighter 3 and just compare them. But like last year, we were talking about Fist of the North Star, which is on the same hardware, by the way, and looks infinitely better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, this game just it feels like a generation behind. It doesn't feel like it's at the same level as your Fist of the North Star. It doesn't feel like it's at Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And again, I need to look at it compared to Street Fighter 3 because in my mind, it doesn't look as good as Street Fighter 3. It like graphically, it looks like a PlayStation game.
I think the whole idea that is because it's referencing an anime.
But so is Fist of the North Star.
No, but the Fist of North Star was like 2000, and this was like way earlier.
This was 1998.
Still, it's there's still a little bit of a gap. But all I'm saying is, and I'm not saying I'm right, but it's like when you see Street Fighter Third Strike or any of those, I mean, that's like my fucking favorite fighting game 2D. It's like it looks so good.
Yes.
And it's because they're made characters. I think I just and this is my thought is just I think it was just them trying to adapt these JoJo characters, and I feel like they did a good job. But yeah, like Dio kind of looks fucking stupid. Like he has his built very good, but then his face looks just like Play-Doh, and a lot of the characters look very good too, but just a little off. And I just think it's because they're referencing something where like other things like Street Fighter Third Strike and all that, it's like they made these characters. So that's why they look so fucking good in this game system.
But I can't accept that because I do think there are other anime fighters out there that do a better job of translating their characters into
During
the 2D.
this time?
Yes, I think that your Dragon Ball Z, the Dragon Ball Z fighting games look better.
That's not during this time.
It definitely was. You had Dragon Ball 2D fighters during this time.
Nerd fight. Let's do it.
They weren't as advanced for the PlayStation.
For GT?
No, they had 2D fighters for like going back to the Super Famicom. And do I think they necessarily look better? No, but when you compare like what was going on here with Capcom, like Capcom has a higher bar than Bandai Namco did for their 2D fighters during this time. And then when you look at like what SNK was doing with Goro, Mark of the Wolves, and all the other fighters that they had there, like graphically in terms of presentation, and even what like Arc Systems Works was doing with Guilty Gear, this is a fighting game that graphically does not stand up to the competition.
That's a good point. I guess I would have to say it's like then these people just got lazy on it.
I don't think it's lazy. I just want to know their budget. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was
like
graphically impressive.
How can you make these other games that you mentioned like look so awesome, like Guilty Gear, but then it's like, let's make this. I must have slacked on it. I don't know.
Perhaps. I don't know. I will say like when you finish your characters off, the way the manga aesthetic is delivered, like that's really cool. Like that has some impressive graphical effects. But when it comes to the actual like character design, not animation frames, I think the animation frames are fine. Like I think they look really good. They're really fluid. But when it actually comes to character design, I think it's like it's a step ahead. It's just not up to snuff. And if you want to talk anime and making anime design characters, Street Fighter Alpha 3 was very anime influenced. And I think Street Fighter Alpha 3 looks better than what you're getting in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, I agree with that. But from taking like a source material with JoJo and even making all the stuff that they did with which we talked about earlier with the in-depth things they talk about so much dumb shit. I mean, it is in the manga and like telling the story, but the story is so long and they do it in like a 2-hour time frame of showing all these characters and like adding actually good looking characters. I'm trying to keep it with the graphics, but in like the super story, it's crazy all the stuff that they added in there that looks legit and actually was before the anime even had like voice acting and like a actual vision. They had to have looked at this game to be like, how would any of these people like talk or look? There's a lot of characters that you don't get to play as, like Avidal's dad, and like the strengths in there. There's a lot of characters that you don't get to play as that's in the story mode that's animated very well. That it's straight out of the comic, but manga, sorry. But it's still like very interesting how to see that this video game made what the anime kind of like took. I think the graphics kind of help with that. They're not the best. I agree with you with that. They're not awesome, but I think they did a very good job.
See, what I find interesting about this whole discussion is that I did not expect this response at all. I wasn't necessarily even trying to compare this game to any other ones at all. I was just kind of taking it as its own sort of thing. And as apparently a filthy fucking casual, I was looking at this and being like, you know what? Actually, this looks pretty good. I like it. Like, it's got the big flashy moves. Like, I really thought that having the big like headshot reactions of the characters, like when things happen, like with special moves and things during the fights,
and they show like the manga come out, you know, like their manga part. It's like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like I thought that was really awesome. And here's the thing, and I don't know, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but I thought it was a really cool touch. Totally, actually, kind of to Ryan's earlier point about the VMU thing, it's almost unnecessary, but like the fact that it's there is just like that extra attention to detail that I do have to give props for. And that is, if you notice, a lot of those background sprite like animations that show up when a special move gets pulled off or something, a lot of times in other games that do something sort of similar to this, they're usually the same animation just every time, right? But with this, and the example I'm going to use is Dio, because like when he does his special move where he kind of like sinks his fingers into his opponent's face, there's an image that pops up in the background, and it's unique to every character. So that means they actually went through and created this sprite, this big sprite, unique for every other opponent that Dio could possibly face in the course of this game if you play as Dio, and made a specific unique sprite for that move for every single character. And that's pretty cool. Like, I thought it was a really nice touch.
And it's like with the one guy with the hatchet, he turns people into children. That's like his like stand thing. He's not a pedophile.
Is that Alessi?
Alessi, yeah. They have animations for it's very Darkstalkers. You know, it goes with like the main vampire guy in that, when he like drinks the blood of everybody. And you still get to fight as you're just like a weaker version of yourself because you're a child.
Right.
But that happens to every character, and it's insane because everyone has that. So like if you're that character and you pull that move off with anyone else, you turn them into a different character. This is why this game is, I feel like the graphics is kind of, I think the center of it is because this game graphics are crazy. They're not like amazing or like, you know, like mind blowing, but like the amount of shit that they do in this game is insane. It's like kind of like Metal Slug-esque, you know, like you guys had that episode of like, there's just so much detail. It's not, you know, AAA, like mind blowing CGI, whatever, but it's like what you can do with a certain hardware for this thing would be a fighting game. It's so cool. And that's like Third Strike. I mean, Third Strike does that in spades, and it's so awesome. And that game's fucking amazing. The JoJo game is just like, it does that too, but like, it's just like people jump into Third Strike because they're like, yeah, Street Fighter, hell yeah. And it has all that, but like this game did that already. And just no one really kind of like gave a shit about it because they're like, yeah, what the hell is JoJo?
Yeah, I mean, that the brand recognition is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. And it's funny now though, because it's like Pokemon. It's on Netflix. I mean, like, Jesus Christ, they own it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't. The way that they're showing JoJo now pisses me off. I used to steal JoJo from fucking torrents, and like I used to do it the old anime. I had to get it from Japan. Like,
wait a minute, is this like an old man argument? Because you're like, oh, the kids these days, they can just stream it to their iPad, and I had to go and trudge through the snow to trade with the man with the trench coat, and he gave me a USB stick with some hot illegal shit on it, and also JoJo. Like, what is this? What this argument is?
It's not an argument. Just okay. This is why I appreciate JoJo so much.
Because you had to work for it. That's what I'm hearing.
And
okay.
I'm just like Jotaro. I just put my hands in my pocket and I just go, fuck it. You know, like he is like the ultimate badass. He's so much like Fist of North Star guy. Kentaro, not Kentaro.
Kenshiro?
Kenshiro, yes, yeah. But I mean, like, he is that guy, and I just wish I was like that.
Don't we all?
Ora.
So
Graphics are cool.
So yeah, graphics are pretty neat. I've heard.
Yeah.
Apparently not as good as I thought, but whatever. I guess it's fine. I thought they were cool. I was dazzled by the pretty lights. Okay, so there you go.
Did you see the all the specials for all the characters?
I don't think I saw every single one. I saw a good chunk of them.
Because there's some wild ones.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I suppose we probably should just kind of roll like a steamroller. Ah, there I did it. Right into the music and the sound design. So Chris, what'd you think about this? Is it not up to par like apparently the graphics?
I don't know. I don't find them offensive.
Wow.
I think there's that.
Ringing endorsement.
I don't really remember any of the music from this game. So I don't want to sit here and say it's bad. I don't want to say that because I just don't remember it. I don't remember anything sticking out. I don't remember any voice acting. I mean, the fighting game sounds are what you get from a fighting game. It's when they made their little action moves they did, and it was appropriate, and it was all in Japanese. And
this is like grandpa's review of video games. It's like when they did the little action moves,
like when they did this, I'm just saying, when they did their moves, they made noises and they weren't offensive, and
they kicked their feet.
All I can say is this about the sound: it didn't bother me, but I don't want to sit here and
was present.
Exactly. Again, I go back to what the game that we did a year ago with Fist of the North Star. And like, I still listen to that soundtrack because it's like just chef's kiss.
Fist has it.
Fisting is where it's at. But like, when I listen to this, it just, again, it like, I could, it fell short.
It did. Yeah.
It really does fall short. And again, I'm looking at around and like, is it just me? And I look at the Street Fighter Alpha series and the way that soundtrack is, and I look at the Marvel vs. Capcom series, I look at Darkstalkers, and I'm like, the soundtrack is just not as catchy as what they were doing for those series. And I don't know why. It just didn't come together. Even the sound quality for the soundtrack wasn't as good. But I mean, everything else, I mean, it didn't bother me. It was a fighting game, and it does what fighting games are supposed to do. So I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I'm mostly in agreement with you. Actually, it was just kind of, it is what it is. I didn't think it was anything spectacular, but a couple things that I did note. One is that I wasn't a huge fan of the fact that a lot of the like interstitial story cutscenes just kind of had the same backing track over and over again. Yeah,
I think they were character specific.
They sounded like the same. Or maybe it's for who you're playing. I don't know, but all I know is that it was just like the same every time.
Oh,
and the other thing, and call me crazy, but I am fairly certain, and I obviously don't know which track specifically it was, but one level, I swear there is a piece of the song, and I'm gonna have to dig up which one it is, but that sounds exactly like Guile's theme. Did anybody else catch that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either. That'd have been awesome, but
there's one little phrase in there in one of the songs that sounds almost exactly like that. And also, I would have to put them side by side, but what do they call them? Episodes? Like in the story mode, it's episodes, right?
Yeah, they do episodes.
Yeah, and so those little episode scenes where they got like the little card that spins around.
Yeah.
The noise, the sound effect there, the like thing, like that sound just like, again, sounds just like the sound effect from Street Fighter 2.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They could have saw it.
Like I'd have to do a side by side, but I swear to God, they're like almost identical.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It sucks because the music in the anime that it's so phenomenal. It's badass, awesome. All the OPs are fucking. I listen to them every day. They're awesome. But this fighting game just doesn't really have that. They're not bad. They're just okay. And they fit what they're doing. But they just hit that line and just don't go anything over with anything. It does kind of suck. It's probably, I think, the weakest part of this game.
Which sucks for a fighting game because
I know. Because fuck, it's like, I'm like, I sent you some of the music, and I'm like, man, if they just had any of this in there, it would be like, I would play this fighting game 24/7, just like against people. Like I'd put this on like any other fighting game with like the anime music that they have, because they definitely touched up on that with the anime. But this is an anime podcast, so I'm sorry.
Nah, it's all good. I think, and I don't know if this is just endemic of like the time period or not, but the other thing that kind of stood out to me was just how compressed the voice sounded.
Yeah. But they do hit actually like so many, like the voice acting in it is actually very impressive if you think about it. For people that like know about JoJo, it's like they lay so many jokes in it and stuff from the manga that like it's just crazy to think about, that you only got to hear it because when I was like looking and like playing the game now, I'm like, old Joseph says, "Oh my God." I mean, like that's like a meme. He says it in this game. And I don't know who actually says that or who's the voice actor of that. But if you look that up on YouTube, I mean, it's like you'll just get hundreds of videos of just like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And he actually has that as a line in this game. It's very fine details, like, you know, like yada yada and ora, like, I mean, like all these things they did put into the game. So it doesn't sound awesome. Like I don't hold them. I'd rather listen to the anime version compared to the game, but they still did do a lot of the stuff that I can like remember from what I love about this series in this game. And even like the bad guys, like Dio, all this stuff. It's like, it's just like a shittier version, but it's still, it's like,
there you go. That's the sum up. This game, it's a shittier version of the show. There you go.
But this show is just so good. I mean, it's just different. And these sound effects and like the music and stuff isn't bad, but it's just okay. You know, it's just all right.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah.
And that's what sucks, because when you actually hear someone like with vibrato and like actually pull off like the steamroller thing, like if you watch that episode of when Dio drops the steamroller on Jotaro and just says yada 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 yada, I mean, like it's insane in the episode. It's so good, but in the game, it's just I guess the show kind of fucked this game up, you know. So
the show is just too good.
But you can't play the show. You have to watch 100 hours of the show. I can play like 5 hours of this game and get a lot out of it. So that's what the game gets. Like that's the benefit of the game.
Brevity.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess then that kind of brings us to our final piece, which is whether or not we feel this game holds up today. And so as is tradition, our esteemed guest will have the final word. So, you know what? I'll go ahead and go first.
Okay.
As the person who doesn't know jack shit about either of the most important aspects of this game, which is the source material and the genre, I am clearly the most qualified here to talk about whether this game holds up or not. But, you know, I think overall I would have to say, yeah, I'm not deep enough into the fighting game community to understand the nuances between different games and how they play and the styles and what have you. But I think if you can get over that hurdle that Chris and I kind of mentioned of that sort of, you know, kind of steep, a little bit of maybe like a skateboarding, U pipe of a learning curve. Once you get over that and kind of figure out what you're doing, I think there is a lot here. And if you are a fighting game fan and you somehow have not played this, I think Ryan made a good point as well earlier, is that it feels like maybe this got overshadowed by some other more well-known, releases. And so it might be good for you to kind of circle back to it. I mean, despite comparisons to other contemporaneous games, I still feel that this game looks really good. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's fun to watch, if for nothing else. And you can get through it in fairly short order. Also, we didn't even mention it, but I suppose it probably bears, at least a small comment here. And that is that the story of the game and how it ultimately ends when you finish it does actually differ depending on who you play as. Just to point that out. So you actually do have a little bit of replayability in there as well. Like if you play as Dio, the ending of the story is going to be very different than you play as Jotaro. So, there is that. But yeah, I would say I'd give it a yes. Not like a super hard resounding yes, but I think it has a lot going for it that might have been underappreciated. So Chris, how do you feel about JoJo on the Dreamcast?
Okay, what do I think about this game?
It sucks.
Well, no. Does it hold up today? If I was a hardcore fighting game fan, maybe. I would say probably yes. If I was a hardcore JoJo fan, oh yeah, I think so. I am neither of those. I used to be a hardcore fighting fan, but that was like 20 years ago. So I gotta say today, like when I look back at the Dreamcast library and everything that has to offer, and even if I want to talk about the PlayStation game, I look at the PlayStation library and what that has to offer. Like for the time, if I want to go back and I want to play a fighting game, and what I think I would have the most amount of fun with, like, no, I don't think this game holds up today. I think you have far better options. Am I saying that means this is a bad game? Not necessarily, but I will say this was not my cup of tea. I would rather go play a Street Fighter Alpha. I would rather go play Cyberbots. I would even like to give Groove on Fight for the Saturn another chance before I played this game again. And maybe it's just because it didn't jive with me. I like the visual design as much as I didn't like the graphics. I don't think they're good. I like the design. I like the way the story is told. I like the concepts it presents, but it's just something that I think that you have to dedicate yourself to with a higher barrier to entry than what you would find in more typical fighting games, which still have a high ceiling and require a lot of practice in and of themselves as well. So I don't want to say like they don't require work, but this just seems to require more work just to get into the fact where you're feeling confident in just the basics of what you're executing. So that's why I have to say no. It's too much into the hardcore gamer bro fighter gamer bro kind of community for me. And if that's you, that's fine. Enjoy your game. But like, I can't get into it. And there's just so many better options comparatively with my mindset for me to say that this game still holds up today.
All right. Well, I suppose that just leaves Ryan. So Ryan, what do you think?
I think it still holds up, but in the sense of just, a 2D fighter game. The new JoJo games, I feel like, are getting lost in what they're trying to do. What I know I mentioned it before. They're like all open world and all that. I think they should kind of take this game, and this is what gets me kind of confused, especially like hearing you guys talking about your like reviews of it, but it could be revised like in an Arc system. I always go to Arc system, I guess, but it could be revised into like just a standard 2D fighter, but this game does hold up. It's very, I guess, standard 2D fighter. If you like JoJo stuff, it's a really cool thing. I just wish it like would kind of carry on to what the other games did, where this game only focused on one arc where the other ones focus on the entire world. And it's just kind of brush this under the rug where they made a fighting game where they had everybody in the game, where there was a 2D fighter that only had a couple people in it, which was this game. I just think that would be a better game, I guess, overall. If they just kept the game mechanics better, because the new ones just kind of suck. They're just like you hit one button and you do a super move. This one you could at least fuck around with and like have some more creativity with the controls. But I just feel like they kind of lost that with the newer games. But I think it holds up.
So it sounds like a mild yes is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I just love the other arcs so much. Like part 3 is really cool. It kind of goes with the Fist of the North Star game where they had so many of the characters in a 2D fighter. And it looked really great. And like everything was the kind of the same. And they had that with the next game that they made, the All-Star Fighter, which they like just re-announced, I guess, which is the exact same game, but on like PS5 and whatever. But it looks really cool and they have all the characters, but I just would rather be a 2D fighter. I don't know. JoJo shouldn't be, I guess, a 3D fighter. That might be my answer to this question.
Okay. Well, there you have it. So overall, a fairly tepid response, I think. We have 2 like sure yes and 1 no. So take that as you will. But there you have it. So that is going to wrap our discussion for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on the Dreamcast. And before we kind of roll into our usual spiel, we always want to take a moment to thank our wonderful guests. So Ryan, thank you once again for joining us on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, I love being on here.
And is there anything out there on the World Wide Web that you would like the folks at home to know about that you do? Would you like to plug some stuff?
Yeah. I mean, always check out Bonzai Chat. I do talk a lot about JoJo stuff, and maybe I'll make a video about this game. Think about it. This really kind of made me think about that.
There you go. All right. As far as we are concerned, well, if you are listening to us, then that means you're already here. So you found us. So congrats and welcome. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't already, please be sure to go back and check out our ever-growing backlog. It's still crazy to think we've been doing this for like, 8 years now?
8 years.
Yeah. So we got a lot of content out there for you to keep you company on your commute or what have you. And that, along with all of our other stuff, whether it is our Patreon or our merch store, or perhaps the social medias, or maybe the Twitch channel, or perhaps our YouTube, all of those things can be found at linktree/retrohangover. That's linktr.ee/retrohangover. And speaking of the Patreon, because we've been plugging this pretty hard lately, but for good reason. And that is because if you join the Patreon now, you get access to the currently ongoing King of Games 1992 tournament, in which we have 10 podcasts involved. It is a good time, and we are there to very scientifically determine the best game of 1992, and we will be taking no further questions. Please do not contact us, but definitely go and listen to it. So if you want to get in on that now, Patreon is the way to do that, and you can do it for as little as $1 a month. Just one American dollar, or whatever that converts to in your local currency. There you go. That's all it takes, and you can get access to that stuff. Now, this will be coming out on the main feed eventually, so you will get it. You're gonna get it one way or another, whether you like it or not. But you can get it now. You're gonna
steamroll by it.
Yeah, you can choose to receive it early by heading over to the Patreon. I'm making this unnecessarily sexual. So
I'm very uncomfortable right now, Shane.
But that's the way to do it. So at any rate, that's all our stuff. Chris, would you like to briefly elaborate on what it is that we do over on the Twitch?
Yes, if you head to twitch.tv/retro hangover, we play games at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday nights. So head on over to twitch.tv/retro hangover and watch us play games. Play some games with us. Well, probably not with us because anyway, head over there and have a great discussion and great people, great times and games. Twitch.tv/retro hangover, 9 p.m. Eastern time, Sundays. See you there, baby.
I'll be right there.
Fantastic. Love it.
Yes.
All right. Well, I suppose with all of that being said, until next time,
Play with your Aura stand joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.